Hello and welcome back to part 2 in this video series. So for part 2 we're going to be deploying a second VPC in AWS for the worker nodes. Then we're going to ask Contrail Command to configure them for us into Kubernetes. So just as a recap, in the last video we deployed a highly available SDN cluster of controllers, 3 AZs, and a Kubernetes master in AWS. This is the architecture. We accessed the cluster, we took a look around, and Contrail Command, having configured it, told us it's got 3 control nodes and no compute nodes. So in this video we're going to add another VPC with 3 availability zones, but this time we're just going to deploy into them minions, so EC2 instances that are capable of using Kubernetes to deploy pods and applications, with Contrail SDN acting as a CNI. As with our last video, we're going to use a stack. We'll give you the link to the stack in the QR codes at the end, so no need to take notes. And we're going to follow a very similar but slightly simpler procedure to deploy those computes and integrate them into the cluster. So really just following our instructions. Step number 1 is to launch the stack. Just like last time, it's a stack on S3. We'll give you the link to it at the end of the video. We're going to click Next. This is a simpler stack, but just as with the previous, it's going to need the username and password of your Juniper Docker Hub registry login. Okay, so I've obscured my username and password just like last time. You're going to need to use your own. And again, the defaults are pretty good. I would start with the defaults in a very similar to the other stack. So it has SG subnets, it's things that are allowed to talk to these computes, and it's already pre-populated the VPC for the controller. So nothing to do there. A default password, site name, you can change these as you see fit. The only 2 fields you'll definitely need to fill in the user and password. And then click Next. Next again. And create stack. And this one just takes a few minutes, and we'll cut the video back as soon as it's completed. Okay, so our minion stack is completed as expected. So for this stack, there's not a great deal to see on the outputs. It will just give you the private IP address of the 3 minions. They're not exposed to internet, but they can reach internet. And then it's telling you if you want to SSH into them, just use those IPs, but you're not going to be able to reach those from your client. You're going to have to SSH into Contrail Command first should you need to access the minions, which you won't have to very often anyway. So let's go back to our instructions. So we've deployed the stack. This is our architecture for the VPC. So at this point in time, if we look at both of our stacks, we have the controller cluster in one VPC and we have the minions in another. So let's go look at the instances, and of course we've got 7 running instances. That's 3 controllers, 3 minions, and the Contrail Command instance. And if we go look at our VPCs, we have the default VPC, which AWS always configures, and then of course we have a controller VPC and a minion VPC. So the next thing to do is to peer them. We need to allow the subnets in the controller to route to the subnets in the minion VPC. And this technique can be used into any public or private cloud. And in fact, we do that sort of thing all the time, and we have code for the other public clouds, GCP, Azure, and we have on-prem code. So we have a stack already prepared for you, and that stack is going to launch and create the peers. Okay, so again, don't worry too much about the link on S3. We'll give you a QR code at the end. So this is a very simple stack, but it does take a little bit of config. So it doesn't currently know the IDs for your route tables or your VPCs. So we need to go fill those in. So let me open a second tab. And we're really just following the instructions in the document that we're going to give you. So it wants the Contrail controller VPC ID. So let's go to VPC. There's our VPCs. Let's find the controller and let's copy and paste the VPC ID. Now it wants the private subnet route table for AZ1A, 1B and 1C. So I'm going to keep that tab and open a third. And let's go to VPC. And let's go to route tables. And we want the controller 1A. There it is. Back to the stack, controller VPC 1A. And then 1B. And then 1C. You could of course use this to even peer cross-account in AWS. VCP peers will let you do that. Okay, and now it's looking for the minion. So it's the same sort of information but for the minion VPC. And then it's 3 route tables. That's route table 1A. 1B. And 1C. Okay, ready to deploy the stack. Next, this is going to be a pretty fast stack to deploy. It's just going to take a couple of minutes. We'll cut the video back when it's ready. Okay, so our peering stack's completed, just 1 or 2 minutes as expected. There's really not a lot to see on this stack because all it's doing is peering the VPCs. So at this point, everything in our controller cluster, each node can see each node in our minion VPC. So everything's talking to everything. So back to our instructions, we've basically followed these steps and we've created the stack. So now we can go to Contrail Command, which in fact we're already logged into from the previous video, and we can add our minions in much the same way that we added the controllers previously. So we go servers, we create a new server, and the first server, call it what you like, but we'll call it minion 1A. Again, we're using static IPs in the stack. You can change them as you like. That's our first. ENS3 is the interface, and we're using our CentOS credentials, the ones that we added earlier. And now we're going to do exactly the same for minion 2 and for minion 3. So all we're really doing here is pointing Contrail Command at the servers that CloudFormation has already brought up so that it can configure them as minions. So we've added 3 new clusters, but we haven't told it what to do with them yet. So it's very simple. Go clusters, go cluster nodes, go computes, go add compute nodes, and we want to add all 3 as compute nodes. So for each one, it's going to ask you for the vRouter gateway IP address. So you just need to specify the first address of the subnet that that server's sat in. So this is the first one. Always the first address in the subnet. This is B. And here is C. At this point we can enroll the servers. There's nothing else to do except wait. Give it 4 or 5 minutes, we'll cut the video back and those nodes should be added. So our stack's finished. So we now have a controller cluster in a VPC, we have 3 minions in a VPC, we have peering, and we've configured those minions as members of our Kubernetes cluster with Contrail as the CNI. So let's log in, and if we go to Overview, you can now see that 3 compute nodes have appeared, which is what we'd expect. So we've got our controller cluster and we've got our compute nodes. We can also go back to the stack, go to Outputs on the controller, and let's jump into controller node 3 and just take a look at Kubernetes. Let's sudo over to root, and you can see we've got 3 minion nodes. If we do a -o wide, it'll tell us a little more about them. So tying it all together, we've deployed a general purpose, highly available cluster of Contrail SDN controllers. We did that using Contrail Command, which automates the build. We also deployed a Kubernetes master. We could just have easily have deployed an OpenStack controller, for example. This VPC can then be peered out to other clouds and on-prems. In our case, we peered it out to another AWS VPC with 3 computes, 3 Kubernetes minions. And again, we asked Contrail Command to integrate them and configure them for us. So that's it for these short videos. We're going to put other videos showing more advanced scenarios into YouTube. For example, we've been working on multi-cloud deployments across 3 public clouds and an on-prem. So do look out for more, and thanks for your attention.